Day. So we're okay. So we're here today to, celebrate it together. And we're excited to host Kat, the supporting engineering manager at GitLab. And thanks for being here today, Kat. Yeah, it is gonna be a fireside chat in AMA format, and I have shared the agenda doc in the Zoom chat. So feel free to put in, your questions to the doc. And I will have the floor to Kat to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here and to share my experience with you all on this year's International Women's Day. How exciting.
Yeah, no, right. Thank you for, being our speaker of the day.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, of course, the International Women's Day celebrates women's achievements, and with a theme this year focusing on technology. So maybe we can start by asking you about your own significant moments as a woman in technology and in a leadership role.
Sure. So I guess with any role, you're always learning new things in your career. Just as a part of having your job, you're learning how to do your role, you're learning new skills. I joined the industry as someone with an administrative/legal background, and I had just been on maternity leave for a couple of years with my daughter, first child, and so yeah, I just fell into it, I guess, into the industry. I had a mother-in-law who asked me if I wanted to start answering some phones and replying to some emails while the developers, wrote some code in the other room. And then, yeah, I guess time inevitably goes on. And before I knew it, I was kind of like the go-to. The business had scaled around me. I'd led multiple kind of objectives throughout that time and worked cross-functionally across all the departments, I guess. And then before I knew it, I was kind of like that go-to person of, how do I do a thing? Like, how do I put my photo on the website? Or, how do I, get sales to engage with this customer, et cetera, et cetera. So from the sphere of support. And I mean, not only had I been involved in all of these other business functions, like I'd created the support desk and all of those things kind of just happened. One of the things I think that stood out to me upon leaving the role was that I always celebrated women joining the team. I thought it was an exciting event. And not only until I realized at GitLab that, we should feel like that's a normal thing, like we should all just have lots of women in the industry with us. And, it was something that I came to a realization of after I'd kind of left that role. But yes, throughout that whole period, I guess because the majority of the industry and the business is male dominated, that even if I hadn't made close relationships with some of the other women joining, we would always just knowingly kind of celebrate each other's wins and successes. And we would always try and lift each other up because, we were there for each other. We were in it together. And I think that stands true as we grow in the industry and kind of make our presence known here.
Yeah. So while we're on that, actually, as a GitLab manager, how do you advocate for and see a value of the DAP, diversity, inclusions, and belonging come to life?
Yeah, there's a few ways. I mean, the TMRG in itself is definitely a good representation of that. During my even the hiring process, I didn't really think that I was going to have any particular TMRG that I was going to join, and then I realized I'm a woman. I might just go in with that. And yeah, I've loved every involvement, everything that I've been able to be a part of with it. The way that I advocate for it is very similar to, I guess, what we all do in the group. Is like just communicating out to people, like some of the events that we're holding, I encourage, in just coffee chats and one-to-ones, to be a part of these things and help celebrate each other and lift each other up. One of the things that I found really interesting as a manager hiring in the recruitment process was that, we actually call out that we are focusing on URGs, like we actually make that a statement of, that's what we want to look for. We want to try and make some change there in that space. So yeah, there's I guess some of the ways that I've noticed that we do that and how I kind of involve myself in that here at GitLab.
Yeah. So do you have any words of advice or encouragement to share with the team today about how or what they can do to drive impact in their roles?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to ask before I answer this question, because I did have a bit of an answer in mind, but is this a general statement? Is this directly for the women in the room? What do you think?
I guess we can go for general.
Yeah, I guess so the answer that I did have, I'll share it anyway, because I do have a little document here. For women in the industry, I've noticed that we have had to wear a mask or build a persona of who we are to fit to the mold of, working with men and put up sort of a front, I guess, or maybe even a defense. And I noticed that working with other women, in my roles, sometimes they would drop that mask or drop that persona around me. Others, kind of didn't even realize they had it. So if you're wearing a mask, whether you're a woman or not, if there's a feeling that you have to conform or you have to be a certain personality, I would encourage you to drop that, to be your authentic self. Let that go, because naturally you will have so much energy back in your life. You'll have so much more ability to do the things that you want to do and drive for the things that you want to make an impact with. There's so much energy and effort that you put into holding up those defenses. So that's my advice on that front. How to drive the impact here at GitLab, I think, is getting to know people, building relationships, and I guess just making bonds with people, because at some point you're going to work with that team or need to work with that team or need to work with someone they know, and building those relationships are going to help you understand what work is like for them. But not only that, you get to see into other people's lives and share your own personal experiences with them. So you might just get to add some extra flavor into your own as well. And that's what can keep you motivated and keep you excited and keep you coming back for more.
Nice. So we do have Manuel who's not on the call, I think. So questions for you that he said maybe it's already been covering question 2, but if not, when and how did you decide to go into management? And what are your thoughts on the new-ish leadership track of staff plus ICs?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, actually. I don't think I ever decided to go into management. I kind of just fell into it more so than anything. I don't think I made a conscious decision to take the management path or to take the management track. Many factors behind all of that, but I think that the biggest factor was that I didn't really have a manager that was there for me to, get me to develop and grow and stretch. It was more a manager that just was there to oversee and supervise and kind of direct. So yeah, I almost kind of didn't think that I was a manager at a point. I guess that was a little bit of imposter coming in as well. But yeah, I definitely didn't decide to, but now that I'm here, I do feel like it was definitely the right choice for me. if I had the opportunity to choose a different track of, say, the staff, for example, I think it might have been a pathway that I had explored, like that I would have wanted to explore. Because I really did enjoy being technical and being kind of closer to the action, so to speak. That is a career choice or path, I think, is amazing, because not everyone wants to be a manager. It's not something that speaks to everyone, but there are still ways that you want to stretch and grow and develop and kind of be that force or influence on your team from that sort of, I guess, next level. And yeah, I think that it's great that we offer that, because you can really benefit your whole team without having to leave, without having to make decisions to, go and look for a different role, or, make another choice, or even have to take a management pathway, because that's the only way that you can kind of get to the next step in your career.
Right. Thanks for that. We don't really have other questions on the doc, so if anyone has questions, feel free to verbalize and just, unmute yourself. But yeah, I do have a questions. So when you're talking about, we're wearing mask, I do, second that. I think as a woman myself, I tend to do that sometimes. But is there any, advice that you would give, not just women, also men as well, how to kind of, let go of that, or especially, for example, for a man manager to a woman, direct reports, what he can do to make sure that the women, feels comfortable talking to him?
Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to comfortability levels and creating. I think that's something that I learned here as well, as creating safe spaces. But not only creating safe spaces for other people, creating a safe space for yourself and being conscious of that. How you could do that is by getting to know how you interact. So I guess doing a bit of introspection on how do you interact with people, how do you get to know people, and really uncover your own strengths, so that when you are in situations where you're having to sync up with people that you don't know, or maybe even in a coffee chat, and you're feeling a bit unsafe or feeling a bit uncomfortable, you've got like kind of a little bit of backup. You've got a list of things that you can draw on, that you can go, okay, cool, this is my happy place, this is my comfortable spot, and I'll lean into these areas. For a manager, with working with a woman, I guess it's all about just, and this applies to any relationship, I think, as a manager, and between a manager and their direct report, is learning about each other, taking the time to get to know each other as well, just not from the business perspective, but as on a relationship level. I mean, you don't have to go into all of the layers and become best of friends or anything like that, but I guess just knowing that person on a little bit of a deeper level will create that safety and that comfortability, so that everyone can feel like that they can just bring their true self along.
Yep, that's great advice. Yeah, I do see Wei Ming has a question. He's typing. So yeah, if you want to verbalize it, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it might be easier if I verbalize it, because I don't really have the exact question in mind yet. But what you said earlier about how Kat, you felt that celebrating having more women on the team shouldn't necessarily be a thing, because it should be normal, right? So my question here is kind of speaking to that. How do you balance between having women being underrepresented and wanting to call attention to that versus, yeah, this should really be a normal thing and we shouldn't really be calling too much attention to that. If you kind of get where I'm going with the question.
It is difficult. It is a challenge. I think Winnie and I discussed this a little bit earlier as well, was, in a similar vein, if we focus too much on a woman or having a woman being added to the team, we also overlooking, the achievements of the team as a whole, or anyone who's not a woman, and maybe not taking them into account. The balance is still very tricky. I don't think that I do balance it, to be honest. Like, I think that I still celebrate it because it's still something that's very obvious. Like, it's still very present, and it's probably just a feeling that I have at the moment that I feel like, I shouldn't be celebrating it, but I just do anyway, because that's just kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I honestly, don't think that I have a balance between it at all. I still continue to do those things and I still continue to celebrate them. I think there's quite a long way to go.
I saw Craig has his hand raised. Do you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kat, for sharing. I got two questions. One is around women being unrepresented or not represented enough in STEM kinds of studies, which means we have fewer women coming through into the eligible pool than we would like. If you could think of your own experience and maybe of other women in their journey, what more could be done to get women and young girls, more excited and more involved with STEM kinds of studies? And then following on from Winnie, I wonder if there's any, I think clearly the people on the call are really interested in this topic. Were there any things that men or allies did along your journey that was like just a really breakthrough moment, or they did something that allowed you to be more of your authentic self, just as examples of great things that managers or individual contributors can do around the workplace?
Sure. So on your first question with STEM studies, I think that it is changing. I do have a teenage daughter in high school at the moment. And because of the access that they have to now social media networks and communities, there are a lot more groups out there advocating for girls to get involved. And so I think that that's actually happening. I think that change is happening. And I see that there are a lot more programs actually being offered by schools as well at the moment. And I think that's very, very different to what I had available to me. The closest I had to that in high school was, doing business courses and using an old typewriter, I think. I don't think they even had computer labs at the time. But the thing that I think that is speaking to them is actually that there's no closed doors for them anymore. And because they've grown up like playing video games, I think that that's the thing that gets them excited about it is, there's code behind video games, and code is a whole industry of IT that you can get
Tech
involved
is now
in.
cool.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. It definitely. I think also, the devices that people are building, VR and like all of the, I guess, consoles and different things that the YouTubers and things are advertising about how you can get involved in all of this. So I think definitely the doors are opening up for them at that younger stage. On to your second question about, was there, allies that helped in my journey? Most definitely. I had certainly allies that understood what I was going through. I, had children that I needed to go home for, that I had to do school pickups, that I had to, that sometimes I would just not feel like up to the task, which, that happens with everyone. But I think that I got a lot of care from specifically a couple of developers that I worked with right from the very beginning of my journey, who pretty much taught me everything. They were very hands-on. They taught me how to read and write code. They taught me how to, do pretty much everything that I know. And without their patience and understanding and I guess generosity of their time, I don't think that I would have been as successful. They weren't necessarily the most social people in general, like at Christmas parties and things. I don't think, they didn't really interact well, but I think they really pushed past that to help me. And I acknowledge that. I realized that, they're actually kind of going out of their own comfort zones. And so, yeah, I felt like that was really helpful. They didn't see me as just one of the boys. They didn't expect me to act like just one of the boys, and they held space for me.
Fantastic.
Great. We have the next question from Liam. Are you on? Want to verbalize it?
Sure. So how are you looking at career growth now at your stage in your career, and how do you plan your career growth for other people, particularly women out there?
My career growth for myself, I don't have big plans to, kind of go anywhere else in my role. Then, I just like where I am at the moment. But I do want to grow myself in terms of leaning into more of the activities that we do in the Women's Team RG. I don't think I've been as involved as I would have liked. So hence why I'm here today. And I want to continue doing more especially for us here in APAC. I just want to give a big shout out to Winnie for stepping up and taking leadership for us here, because we do have, Women's TMRG events available to us. We did have them before, but now that Winnie's here, we do have them in more of a APAC friendly time. So yes, thank you so much for doing that. But yes, I guess I would like to be a bit more of an outsider to Winnie and also learn more about what I can contribute out in the industry, out in the community. And yeah, take that sort of advocating outside of my sphere here as well. How do I plan career growth? Well, I've actually just had my first women reports come to me just recently. So I'm still working on that. In general, I guess, I'm doing all the things that that we do here in GitLab already with our learning and development plans and yeah, just general kind of managerial, I guess, career growth and planning from that perspective. So yes, I will keep you posted on that.
Great. Thanks for the shout outs, Kat. Yeah, I don't really see you have any other questions. So if you still have any, feel free to, ask them. But yeah, I mean, if we don't have other questions, then I guess we can give like 15 minutes back to you for your day. But yeah, if you do have, go ahead, Mariah.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Kat.
Hi.
So as a TMRG, you probably run into the similar situation of jump into a meeting and you're the only one. Did you ever feel compelled to speak up for the sheer fact that